I think it's probably time for us to switch to our thoughts on the game, isn't it? And whether we actually would play Naismith or not, or expect him to be played.
Yeah, I mean, we also had extended your chat with Derek Temple as well, so we'll get his thoughts on the game there, and then we'll talk about our thoughts as well.
Just looking forward to this weekend then, obviously really tough test for the Blues, first home game back at Goodison this season. Arsenal in the evening kick-off on Saturday. What's your thoughts going into that game? Do you think Everton have got a chance, or tough game for the Blues?
It'll be buzzing, won't it? You know, the place will be on fire. I think we've got a great chance. I mean, we play these so-called top teams, you know, and we always do well against them. We give them a game and very often beat them. So I'm always optimistic when we play these teams. So I'm not differing in that respect this time. I think we have a very good chance of getting the 3 points.
And obviously last season we beat, you know, Arsenal quite convincingly at home, and it was the game where Roberto, you know, surprised a few people by playing Lukaku on the right-hand side rather than up front. Do you think he might have a surprise or two up his sleeve this time? Or?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, you know, because he's that sort of manager. He's a deep thinker, isn't he, about the game, and I'm hoping he can come up with something. But generally, our football is good, and we can match teams with our football. It's just the finishing. We've got to get this finishing right. I mean, we scored 2 goals. I thought they were 2 great goals. So if we keep that up, we'll be all right.
Okay, Derek, thanks for your time today.
All right, Mark.
Okay, so the thought of Derek Temple on the upcoming game there, and for you Blues who might not have heard Derek talk much really, he's also left us with his views on the upcoming season and how he thinks Everton will do, and so stick around till the end of the podcast and we'll play that bit as well. Looking ahead to the Arsenal game, you know, our thoughts on it, I don't know. I mean, where do you want to start at last season? Can we go off last season as a basis?
Well, obviously, you know, we all know that when Arsenal turned up at Goodison last year, we gave them an absolute hiding, didn't we, basically?
Yeah, ran out 3-0 winners. We were 4 points behind them in the race for the Champions League with 2 games in hand. And, you know, we closed the gap with that 3-0 victory. But it was towards the end of the season. This is the second game in. And I think it's a very different story.
Would you say that performance was the high point of our season last season?
I think, although that was that 3-0 win was dominant, and there was, you know, very high spots in there, like Seamus Coleman just turning into, like, you know, an absolute worldie. We already knew that he was top class, but the way he took the piss in that game just made us realise, you know, how good he actually was, you know, against a club that's, you know, that size. But I think the Man United game at home was how utterly dominant we were, even though we only beat them 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Man United away as well, obviously going and winning there for the first time in a long while. But yeah, obviously, you know, last year there was the big Lukaku surprise, wasn't it? The way Martinez deployed him, which we've spoke about already. I would suggest that probably isn't going to have the same impact this time, and maybe we need to look at changing it about a little bit from the way we set up last season.
Well, Wenger's going to be kept guessing though, isn't he? Because he could be...
Well, that's the beauty of it.
He could be preparing for that. Or he could be preparing for 4-5-1 or 4-4-2 or whatever. So no matter what, it might be a surprise, unless he's got his spies in Finch Farm.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we've also got to guess what Arsenal are going to do, because there was a little bit of a surprise in their team last week. I mean, we watched the game, didn't we? It was on straight after the Everton game. They were the evening kick-off against Crystal Palace, obviously Arsenal being at home at the Emirates. And in all honesty, they didn't look massively convincing to Arsenal. You know, Palace were very unlucky not to get something out of the game with a very late goal coming from Arsenal. And the big surprise really was Sanogo starting on his Todd up front.
Yeah, I mean, we criticised him a lot last season, but, you know, we talked about him last week, I think, didn't we? We said he looks to have put the pounds on a little bit. Maybe he's been hit in the gym or, you know, having his Weetabix or whatever, but he's filled out a little bit and he seems like he's another decent option for them now. see, Wenger's come out this week and said that the seasons came just a little bit too quickly for them. Do you think Everton are in that same kind of boat as far as, not fully back to it?
I do, yeah. I don't think that's an excuse you could really get away with against Everton. I think, in all honesty, I think the reason Sanogo played was nothing more than he was just trying to save Giroud for the Champions League qualifier, which was he obviously played last night against Besiktas.
Did he?
He did play, yeah, but you probably...
Yeah, no, he didn't have the best of games, did he?
He wasn't great. So obviously, against Palace last week, Arsenal set out in a 4-1 formation with Gibbs at left back, as we mentioned earlier. Mertesack's injured at the moment, so Koscielny and Chambers at centre half, Debussy at right back, Arteta sitting in midfield, and then obviously a 4, which is a pretty tasty 4 really, as their attacking midfield players: Cazorla, Wilshere, Ramsey and Alexis Sanchez, and then Sanogo up top, as we mentioned.
Yeah, but that's very well going to change, isn't it? It looks like Arteta's out. I think he's got an ankle knock, so he's out of the game.
You'll probably see Flamini come in.
Flamini will possibly come in, or Wilshere could drop back. Chamberlain played a part last night, didn't he? Giroud came on. Giroud played last night. He came on last week as well. Yeah,
but obviously the only thing is they drew that 0-0 last night. That qualifier, they didn't manage to get an away goal. So the second leg is next week. So they
could be saving.
They're going to bound to have one eye on that. They've got to qualify for the Champions League, haven't they, for financial purposes.
Yeah. So Demba Ba did well, apart from score, and he did everything else, didn't he?
He did. He hit the bar from the kick-off, didn't he? Straight away.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, I mean, I honestly do think now, as ridiculous as this sounds, now is probably not really a bad time to be playing Arsenal, particularly at home, particularly in the evening kick-off. Which gives them even less time before their second leg next Wednesday.
Not quite under the lights though, are we, with it still being summer? We might get the last 10-15 minutes under the lights, do you think?
No, we're not, but it's going to be an evening game where all the Evertonians are going to be out having a drink on a Saturday afternoon, so they'll all be up for the game, won't they? Obviously, first game back at Goodison, so the atmosphere is going to be good anyway. But I just think we might get a slightly weakened Arsenal side. Maybe, we will see Sanogo up front again. Maybe we will see, Monreal at left back, for instance, if he's looking to try and utilise some of the better players to go out against Besiktas again. I rate Chambers, I really do. He's a young player, he's 19, but I think, somebody like Lukaku could really get at him and target him, because he hasn't really got that much Premiership experience when you look at his previous.
So you want Lukaku in beast mode, don't you? Let's face it.
Yeah, and I would actually go with him down the centre. Yeah. To have a run at their.
I do like that we've got them thinking though that with that performance last year that we could switch it up, and Naismith could start in the middle, and we've got Atsu and Morales there who could make make an impact. Should they come in?
I mean, changes wise from last week, I concur with what most of our listeners or our readers went with before. I'd definitely bring Coleman back in, put Stones on the bench, and then my only other change at the moment would be Morales for, if fully fit, Morales in for McGeady. I think that's the only change I'd make at the moment. I do like McGeady to come on as a bit of an impact player. I would keep Pienaar and Naismith in after the performances last week. I thought they did more than enough to warrant a run aside, both of them.
Do you think we need to get those, going back to partnerships, do you think we need to get those back in play? I mean, I think that's key to how we start off this season, isn't it? Because we've got, if we can get Baines and Pienaar back in, Morales and Coleman back in, and Distan and Jags back in, and then Barry and McCarthy.
Well, I'll add another partnership to that, Naismith and Lukaku.
If
they can get, as you say at the start of the podcast today, you maybe thought that the two of them played with the back to goal a little bit too much. If we can get one of them sort of playing with the back to goal and one of them making runs off and get that really linking up well, that could be another important partnership on the pitch.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a little bit harsh on McGeady after I finished to drop down, but I think most people have him dropping, don't they? And I mean, I think we're probably going to see Besic in this game, whether it be as sub or I don't think he's going to start though. But a lot of people seem to be thinking that Barry didn't put the best performance in last week. So will Besic come in?
I mean, the only way I could see Besic coming in for this game would be if we did sort of really try and pack out the midfield to keep it tight, and then maybe you'd see McCarthy, Barry and Besic as a 3.
Do Arsenal have enough of a threat, personnel-wise, to warrant Besic coming in to do a man-to-man on anyone like he...
Well, I just read out that them 4 attacking players that they had out last week.
Any one of them.
And that was without Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, but is there one of them? You know, I mean, Cazorla's caused us problems before. Ramsey
I think if you're going to go man-to-man on anyone at the moment from Arsenal, you're looking at Ramsey. He's the big goal threat. Sanchez, you would say also, but if he's playing out wide, would you really want to take somebody, out wide to keep him quiet? That waits to be seen, doesn't it? Really, but I hope with us being at home, rather than focus on what Arsenal are going to do, we focus on what we're going to do.
That's exactly what my next point was going to be. Derek Temple said there, when we're on song, when we're going at teams with pace and we're playing fluid, we can, take it to anyone. So maybe that should be our focus. No man-to-man on anyone. Go and play our game and let Arsenal chase us. And I hope we do that because we can knock the ball around. I hope we don't get into that pattern where we just don't know where to go, so we knock it back, and then the defenders start to fret, and then because Arsenal have got a lot of midfielders who can push up and nick the ball and cause a lot of damage there. Yeah,
I mean, I'd say if we're looking for a weak link, I would really focus on trying to have a run at Chambers and have a go at him. The old lady should be rocking, shouldn't it? There should be, should be quite an intense atmosphere, hopefully. So you never know if Chambers at the young age might, sort of go to pieces a little bit with the likes of Lukaku bombing down on.
What about Baines and Pienaar against Debussy?
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually like Debussy. I think he's a good defender, but he certainly wanted to probably a bit better going forward than he is actually defending. So if he, again, it depends how they set out, whether they might play somebody on the right-hand side, like a likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, perhaps, who can give Debussy a bit of cover and help him out a little bit.
You mean Kieran Gibbs?
Don't you start getting them two mixed up. They caused enough trouble last season.
Yeah, so as we near the end of the podcast, we need first of all an actual man to watch. I mean, we've already hinted at one there.
It's difficult, isn't it? There's so many to choose from, really, in the Arsenal side. But as I said, at the minute, I just don't think you can look past Aaron Ramsey. The form he was in last season, the form. He's already popped up and scored a goal, a winning goal against Palace last weekend, and now he's going to be, after getting sent off last night against Besiktas, he hasn't got to really worry about not getting 90 minutes again before the next game. So I think Ramsey will definitely be nailed on to play, and I think he's the one we've got to look after. Yeah, maybe we could stick Besic on to boot him up in the air. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Well, he just pops up with goals, and I picked Arsenal to win the league, and I said he's key to it because he's if he hadn't got injured last season, they would have been higher up in the league. I guarantee it. And
he probably would have won or been right up there with Suarez for Player of the Year. I think there's a very good chance that Aaron Ramsey could be the Player of the Season this year across the league. But it's whether he can stay fit and hopefully. We can keep him quiet.
So Aaron Ramsey, Mark, Max, one to watch. And what
I feel a bit of a cheat just saying that because he is so obvious, isn't he? But
he is. But so Sanchez is obvious, isn't he? And Cazorla is probably obvious as well.
I think I picked Cazorla last year actually. Yeah. But, yeah.
So what was the scoreline?
I have got a certain level of confidence for this game for the reasons I laid out before. But Arsenal are a good side, aren't they? They've obviously bought a cracking player in Alexis Sanchez, and as much as I've criticised Chambers saying I think we can have a go at him, he does look to be a quality defender as well. So it's going to be difficult. I think. Do you know what? I can see us sneaking a 1-0.
Fingers crossed for that. I mean, going back to what our Australian correspondent said about us taking 3 draws from these opening 3 games, and that's what we did last season, and we finished 5th. And this season we've got Arsenal and Chelsea in those 3 games. So I think I agree with Carl a little bit. I wouldn't be too disappointed if we got those, if we drew our next 2 games, Arsenal included. So I'm not going to do a prediction, but I wouldn't be too disappointed with a draw again, because those teams are so tricky.
I think when you look at the first 3 fixtures we have, I think I would have been happy with 5 points. Now we already dropped points to Leicester, so I'm going to take a win against Arsenal and a draw against Chelsea. So I'm going to say that we're going to win on Saturday, and I do fancy a little 1-0, maybe a pen or
Bainesy.
a Lukaku goal. Yeah,
Bainesy with a pen. Okay, so that wraps up another podcast for us, almost. If you stick around after we've finished, we've got a little bit of Derek Temple's thoughts for the season. But now, I just want to thank everyone for listening on SoundCloud. If you listen on SoundCloud and have an Apple device, go and subscribe to us. You get the podcast every week. Thanks for listening on the YNFA app. And we've also got a Premier podcast on there, which covers our thoughts on the Premier League.
It does, yeah.
And a few people have listened to it who aren't Blues, and have said that it sounds like we know what we're on about. I don't know what they're smoking.
Maybe just our accent confuses them.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for following us, listening to us, and even the YouTube shares and stuff like that, which will be more frequent as we go further into the season.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who sent in their thoughts on Facebook this week that we've read out on the show. Thanks to Carl for recording over in Australia. And more than anyone, thanks to Derek Temple for gracing us with his presence on our little podcast. We do appreciate it. And as we've said for a long time now, it's something we're going to try and bring you more and more player interviews throughout the season. So, let's do Arsenal on Saturday, shall we? Let's get the Goodison rocking. And let's bring home a win.
Yeah, come on you Blues.
So, okay. How do you think the season will pan out for the Blues? What would you say is realistic ambitions for Everton this season?
Well, the way if buying players brings success, the teams like the top 4, if you like, or who can you say the top? Man United, or I'd say Man City, Chelsea, Man United, possibly Arsenal and Liverpool, because they've spent the most money. But Man United haven't, but they have a lot of useful players there. But I think if we could get amongst them, I'd be delighted. We just get on the tail end of them, because money doesn't buy success. But most of these teams seem to always end up at the top. When I saw Man City play Newcastle on the telly there, and they look good. Chelsea last night were quite useful. But I think all of them, up front they look sharp, but all of them have a problem at the back, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's which gives us a chance, because we can't compete money-wise with them. But we have a terrific squad of players, and we've got a wonderful team spirit, which makes up for a lot more, And so I'm hoping that we can certainly emulate what we did last. If we do what we did last season, that'll be made up.
And obviously with the Europa League this year, we've got 3 cup competitions to go for.
Yes.
Could you see possibility of maybe Everton recreating what yourself and past Everton team did in 1966 by lifting the trophy?
Well, not necessarily the FA Cup, but certainly I'd love to see them win something, because the football they play deserves it. Generally, they play good stuff, and I think that I don't know this Europa League with the Thursday games and then the Sunday. I'm just wondering whether we've got a big enough squad for that.
Yeah.
Because it does take it out of the squad. In the past there've been teams that have been doing quite well, and they've been in the Europa League, and then they've suddenly been struggling. So I hope that doesn't happen with us.
Well, I know there's a lot of Evertonians out there who, you know, may not have even seen Everton lift the trophy, you know, some of the younger Evertonians,
right.
So I'm sure they'd like to have a good cup run and you know,
that'd be brilliant,
celebrate like the lads did back in '66 with you, so